I want to thank Kate and the board for inviting me to do this. Third time I've done it. And I really like the challenge of a show like this where the artists are given a restriction. And in some cases, I think that can bring about some of the most interesting work. Whether the restriction is no words, it's got to be 8 feet tall, it's got to be 10 inches small, whatever it is, it usually puts you out of your comfort zone. And I think that's always good for all of us. And also, I like to see ideas distilled down to the gwank, you know, and with small work, that tends to be the case. What am I looking for as a juror? A big fat check. First thing. I'm looking to be surprised, you know. I'm looking for the use of traditional material in a new way that I haven't seen before. I'm looking for someone to bring their life's experiences to this moment, that they turn that piece in for me to look at. And as you know, it's really a scary thing to enter a show, no matter where it is, because you have someone you don't know, never have met probably, making a judgment about something that's one of the most personal things that you do. And so I don't take that lightly. I want to walk away from this experience with new information. I want to be able to rip you off if your work is worthy of me ripping you off. I have been a teacher for a long time. I haven't done it for a while, but for like 30 years. So there's always a part of me that wants to, in one way or another, make you better than you were before the experience. And so there's always that part of it. And the whole didactic thing can wear thin after a while. You know, okay, could you just, you know, get to the point? No. No, I can't, actually, because that's part of it. The overall, the third time I've done it, the overall impression for me is that this is the best show I've seen. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't believe it. Everybody here knows what it is to make art. Everybody here, I'm speaking of these inanimate objects as people. Everybody here knows, or it's apparent to me they know, that these works are the sum of your life up to this moment. Each work is, each new work is that. And it's kind of not art if it's not that. It's artifice. It's looking at too many art books. It's not paying close enough attention to yourself and giving yourself a pat on the back for having been here this long and experienced all these things and have an ability to communicate them to other people. So I see that here. I also see a little professionalism in the paintings, for instance, in the handling of paint, the application of paint. I really feel that, especially in painting, that there should be a history of the painting's making. I'm not totally thrilled always by the end result, but if I can see in that work how they got to that point, the decisions they made, the ones they discarded, I want to be part of that journey. That's why I go to a museum. That's why I go to galleries. That's why I go to my friends' studios. And I see that here. I see a longing to become, to go beyond the artists are at right now. I think that's really important, to not be your own disciple, to want to quest into areas that, that you haven't been before, to go out of your comfort zone. And I think I see that. I really do try hard when I jury these shows to not recognize names. I've done it 3 times. I know the work pretty well, taught for all those years. I can pick that up really fast. I try and let that go. But in many ways, in these 3 years, not in a row, over a period of time, you see a development of the artists. And to me, that is just wonderful. And so I think that is really exciting. There's everything in this room from not photorealism, that's not the case in this particular show, although we've seen some, but realism, pure abstraction, and something in between. And it's all, however, about a personal vision. I didn't include anything that, that I had seen before a million times. I didn't include anything that didn't surprise me, make me feel just a little bit uncomfortable when I looked at it. And, oh, another thing. Oh, you know, I forgot this. 75, you tend to forget a few things. In the initial remarks, I forgot to thank Jay Haskins for hanging this show. That is a work of art in itself. What you have before you start, what Jay had before he started, was all these little works lined up on the floor. How are you going to get them up here? You're going to double hang a little bit. In some cases, you're going to move them in, move them apart. And then, what's really nice about this sojourn of jurying is that the 3-dimensional work is suddenly becoming alive a little bit. It was, do you remember like in the 70s when people were saying, the art mags were saying, painting is dead? You know, and that's because de Souvreau and Robert Morris and a lot of people were making really interesting sculpture. And the painting was becoming redundant. We'd seen it all before. It was all a rehash of AE and like that. Well, at this point, sculpture is kind of dead. And so to see people pushing it in areas that we haven't seen before. You haven't seen one of these. I haven't seen one of these. No one's seen one of these, you know? And why are we attracted to this particular piece? Well, there's something very familiar about that branch being slabbed. Okay, so we can identify with that a little bit. The metal, that's interesting. And you immediately think about how do you craft that metal? How do you machine it? What do you do to get it to look like that? And then the decision to do that, something that's almost ephemeral, that's just almost not there. It seems like it's fighting against the strength of that. And then, of course, this shape, which is the pyramidal shape that will support almost anything. You know, your mind's eye, that is a very, very powerful shape. The negative space in between this. See, all those sculptural terms that when I was going to school were really important. Form and space, things like that. That's kind of coming back, but with a twist. There's recognizable imagery there. Not the overall, but the components that make up that work. I think that's very exciting. This is a little bit more traditional, this piece. However, it, I think, carries on a tradition of Anthony Caro, Peter Voulkos in his bronze sculptures, and does it in a really inventive way. What I also like about this piece, it is a piece that is complete unto itself. It's not a maquette. I don't want to see it any bigger. I don't want to see it any smaller. I want to see it just like that. You know, that's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to know when to not feel so strong that you've got to make them 8 feet tall or so small that you have to reduce them, but to find just the right size. And that piece is that. The other sculpture over there, I'm really very excited about that because it brings thoughts and words and policies and politics and environmental concerns, all those things that we talk about at coffee shops, talk about with our partners in the morning. That piece has so much to do with almost reading the morning paper. And I love that. That's a tradition that my father turned me on to years ago in Hoquiam. Read the morning paper, have coffee. That has that kind of feel to it. And do the words go with that particular piece? I'd have to ask the artist to maybe talk about that. Maybe the artist will talk about it. Does that piece need those words on the other side of it to explain where it's at? The artist would have to tell us that. I'm not offended by those words. I don't think they're a crutch. I think they're needed, and I'm glad they're there. They weren't there when I juried the show, but I'm glad they're there. And it's interesting when you think that the artist made the decision, and that's what art's all about, is decision making. That's really what it's about. Well, you know, I think those words maybe explain a little bit more about the depth of this piece, you know, why I had to jerk it out of the inside of myself. And that beautiful cloud shape, and then that gorgeous, almost jewel-like shape as it rests on that pyramid and that point where they touch. A lot of tension in that point. So this is a long-winded about the sculptural part, but it hasn't been here before. I mean, in the 3 years that I've juried this show, it just really hasn't been here. There's been three-dimensional pieces, but I've seen them before, you know. And so, yeah, I wanted to say that. This is a great piece because of the humor involved in it, and also the craftsmanship. As this one exhibits a great deal of craftsmanship. All of these sculptural pieces do. And it's got humor, but there's something macabre about it, something unsettling. I wouldn't want to meet it in a dark alley anywhere, or its brother or sister. But what it is a new experience. It's changed my life a little bit since I saw it. When did I jury this? A week ago? Yeah. I took that home with me. You know, I always don't want to take home all the art you've seen because some of it is bad, some of it is unsettling, some of it is you wish you would have done it yourself. And in a way, that piece has got all those qualities in it, every one of them. Unsettling. I kind of wish I'd have thought of that. And I don't know if I want to back up too closely. So, the award winners, everybody wants to know about that. And that's really the fun part. You know, I come in and I take about a half hour to go around and just look at the work. So the helpers, Kate and yourself, patiently. When is he ever going to earn his money? But you know, it's the visual experience. So you have to kind of, you know, get inside them. And so that work I thought was best in show. And the reason I thought it was best in show, there's a lot of good painting here. There's really some people who can apply paint in a very professional manner. They understand the transparency of it. They understand the viscosity of it. They understand the tool that they're applying the paint with, whether it's a brush or whether it's a brush that's not out of the store, but they picked out every other hair until it does just exactly what they want them to do. They know about underpainting, glazing, all of that. And so it's the painters in this town are good. You're very good. You're excellent. And I love looking at your work. So how do you settle on one? Well, you know, you look again at things that you kind of haven't seen before. In this case, the subject matter is a bit banal. So what are you going to do with that? How are you going to raise it up a little bit so it's a subject matter that could change your life if you take a look at it closely? Well, the subject matter is probably never going to do that, but the articulation of the paint is going to do that. You can really see the history of that paint. You can see what went on first, what went on next, what went on in the very final part of it. Also, it's not just floating in front of a field. That field is becoming and is part of that object. It moves back and forth. And I think that is, and again, I wish I'd have done that painting. I really wish I'd have done that painting. It's a wonderful, wonderful painting. Talked about this. This piece, I almost gave that the best in show because it's archetypal. You know, on one hand, it looks like, although she's 42 now, but my kid could have done that. But my kid couldn't have done that. I couldn't have done that. Most of the people in this room could not have done that. It's a distillation of landscape. It's the Gwank of landscape. And also, on top of that, it's monumental. That could be a 40-foot-high tree, easy. You get that feeling that this person had their breath sucked out of them when they saw that and decided they had to do it. The palette is really close and tight. There's no colors that would jar you. It's very earthy. Atmospheric. It's very atmospheric, and I love that. And that's so difficult to pull off without being funky. And also, there's incredibly subtle three-dimensional quality about that. It's not planographic, it's 3D without contrasting shadows, without a direct light source. So I think the person that did this, is that person here? That's really a good piece. In a way, the way you presented it for me to look at it, I had a feeling you didn't think it was a very good piece, so you just tossed it off. But you didn't. That's a killer. That really is a killer piece. Yeah. Okay. Photography is back, and I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see. I'd like to see photos that have been manipulated on a computer. I think that's interesting. I also don't want to see, as an artist, the darkroom disappear, and it's rapidly disappearing. And so it's nice to see some people using traditional methods in their work. And also, the craftsmanship in photography is critically important. And the pieces that I see are beautifully crafted. They're well done. Let's see. I could chat around about this for a while, but I think it would be better if maybe you had some questions that you would like me to respond to, whether it's about a specific piece or whatever it's about.
When did this idea of being able to follow the artist making the painting take over from that, what was it, what did they call the French, where everything was very crisp, clear, there was a very defined way the painting had to look if you got into the, the big shows around the turn of the century. When did that shift, and who shifted it?
Yeah.
Because I love that. That's always been a part of that was the way I was taught.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're thinking about, let's say, turn of the century, France, for instance, Salon shows. Yeah. There was, I think, during those times, more agreed upon aesthetic amongst the teachers, amongst the people who purchased the work. amongst the gallery owners, amongst the museum curators. There was a way that things ought to look if they were going to get that kind of exposure. And nothing wrong with that, because there's no instant media. There's very few magazines but some, but mostly they were not good art magazines. I think the sense that people got that everyday life, and not approximations of life or approximation of a landscape, but everyday life, like Daumier, for instance, Manet, for instance, when artists started to deal with the everyday of our lives, and not just angels on a mount, or not just the way things ought to be, then I think that art started to become more democratic. It started to open itself up so you and I could enjoy it. We could participate in it a little bit more. Art suddenly was not formalistic. There wasn't a way of doing it. There was as many ways of doing it as there are people. So it's a tricky question you've asked, but that is my best shot at the answer.
One of the things that you look for as a judge is something new, something you've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would think that in this day and age, that's kind of a rarity, unless I'm not understanding. Like, for instance, that tree that you were pointing to,
Mm-hmm.
is that an example of something that you've never seen done before?
And what is your name again?
Because I would think that's rare to see something, I've never seen that before.
I couldn't agree with you more. It is rare. And I think that's why we're here right now, talking about not the mundane, but works that share an insight, that are something that is going to give us insight because we look at them. Speaking of that piece right there, it, to me, is it's a monolith instead of being a tree. It goes beyond the painting of an object from nature. In my mind, it becomes an essence of nature. And so I don't know if that's answering your question, but I think it's getting close to it.
In your definition, would that be something that you've not seen before?
Yes. 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 There's two sides to that piece. There's one kind of, because there's not individual brush strokes, a certain kind of naivete about it. And yet, when you step back and you look at the overall impact of that piece, I've learned more about atmosphere and landscape and color and application of paint than I have in a lot of pieces I've seen lately. So I guess that's what I meant about it. You can't see it right now, but there's one place on the left where the sky is brushed into the tree. Now, if that was a hard edge, that wouldn't work. Because those two things would move like that. That brush mark where the artist has run out of paint, and the artist knows that brush is almost dry, and when to lift it, then it flows together. And is that right?
Say yes.
Yeah. Those are two good questions. If you get me sweating a little bit, you know that I'm working. That I'm working. That's really important. Really important. Go ahead.
One of my friends, who is a very good artist and has been through all the schooling, she and her husband both, when he started to tell me about my painting being very painterly, and it reminded him of something, concepts that he had learned in school. And she said, no, no, don't listen to him. Don't go to school. Do your own thing. It's just, the more you learn from the establishment of art, the professors, the educators, the more it's going to hurt you. You're on a good path. Just keep going. You're finding. So that's my question to you. Do you think that's true?
Oh.
I mean, do you think it's true that it's possible to actually have too much art education?
I can only use myself as an example. I was drafted in 1961 in the Army, and spent 2 years in the Army. And then when I got out, I knew I didn't want to do any more Army. That was enough of that. I just didn't want to be told what to do all the time and how to do it. So I thought about, I was a mediocre high school student. Really, I was into sports. And this friend of mine suggested, why don't you go to college? And it was beyond what I thought was even possible. But I like new things, so I did. I went up to Humboldt State. And no major or anything like that, just questing, just looking for what to do. Give me a clue. And I just took every class I could. I finally took a drawing class from this guy named Max Butler. And I was kind of good at it. He was a tough teacher. He had one of those, the old style pencils with red and blue. So you have half of it's blue, half of it's red, not graphite, I don't know what it is. And if he drew on your drawing with the blue, it was bad. He would always draw and correct your drawing. And he was really good. I mean, he was hand-eye, forget it. It just blew my mind. And over that semester, I got more red and less blue marks on my drawings. And so that encouraged me to take another class. And then all of a sudden, I had some terms and words that I'd never had before, gradation, ... Also, I'd met some people that I'd never met before that were from that class. And I got a chance to talk to them and realize this just wasn't some kind of game. I'm taking a little while here because it's a great question. And then suddenly I started getting involved in it. And it started luring me. I just couldn't get away from it. Then wet media started happening, and then bronze casting, and then all this stuff. So my answer to your question is that I don't think as hard as you try, if you go to school, if you don't have any life's experience, then school could screw you up really fast. But you do have. And so what that school is doing is filling your tool bag. Whether it's how to paint, whether it's how to weld, whether it's how to use a computer, any of that stuff. So don't be spoiled. Don't let your naive joy about the making of objects be spoiled by looking at other art or by going to school. I think that is really a bad idea, a bad thing to say to someone. On the other hand, just going down to the boatyard and watching riggers work or whatever, it's just filling up that tool bag, So I wouldn't listen too much to anybody that said that. I would take that with a grain of salt. It cuts off an avenue that may be a very important one for you, it was wonderful to realize for me as a young person that there were other people involved in this art. You know, that I was becoming passionate about it, and they were passionate about it. I'd never been passionate about anything, really. At 23, 24, staying alive, that was it. And so, yeah, I wouldn't, it's unfortunate that it costs so much to go to school today. You know, it really is bad. Humboldt State was like $50 a semester for all the credits you could eat. You know, are you kidding? UC Berkeley was same system. It was like $150 a quarter for all the credits you could eat. I mean, how could you ever turn down a chance of working with Peter Voulkos or Jim Melchett or Robert Hudson, Squeak Cornwith? I mean, no. So I think it's a statement that someone said to you that really liked your work, probably. Don't let it be influenced negatively by something that already exists. But that's not going to happen. Yeah. I've always liked what you do with portraiture. And I think we had talked at one time about branching out, whether it's a haystack or it's a whole body or whatever. And that's only a suggestion. And if it feels awkward, that's probably good. That's probably good. If it feels like it's out of your field of comfort, that's probably good. But I think that you have a real understanding of the musculature and the bone structure beneath the skin. And I don't think, there's a lot of doctors that don't have that understanding, you know? Your sense of color is very, very powerful. You really like juxtaposed color, jarring color swatches next to one another. And I think that's good. And I think you have to work hard and not becoming a gimmick. I'm thinking of Jawlinski, for instance, where I think he did let that become a gimmick. Some early Matisse, where the juxtaposed color became more than the object itself. Thank God Matisse didn't stay with that too long. And then able to move this object into the field. You do that here, you do that here. And you notice, for those of you looking at this thing, you could see that brush moving. The application of that paint. You could see the history of the making of that painting. It's not a mystery that you go to your studio, lock the door, and don't let anybody see you do that. This is out front. You can all see how to do it. You're not doing it. She's doing it. So there you go. You know, this is normally a color that I don't like very much, that I'm starting to fall in love with myself with the kind of funky furniture things I'm building right now. And you know, before it's like robin's egg blue, or it just seemed just like a little too sweet. But it's not, because it plays off against that. And it sets up a jarring, there's no transition between that. It's just, you know, beats against itself. And I think that's good too. So eventually you're going to have a show of these, and we're all just going to be knocked out by them, you know. The dog one you did, that one reminds me of, you know, Bob Ernest in ceramic works. He passed away, but UC Davis is where he taught. Wonderful, wonderful artist. Did ceramics for the most part, but also did paintings and prints. He did a dog series, and that reminds me a lot of his dog. There's a joy about it. I think we're trying to make art here. I don't think you were trying to make art there, and they both work. Okay? Yeah, that's a great, that's really a nice piece. I've told you before that I think your work is really good. Just keep doing it. Don't shut off any input. You know, take it in and then get rid of it if it doesn't work. Yeah.
What I think you're trying to say is with your elements of surprise, something new. I find that in looking at art, if the viewer is involved in, invited into the painting and the work of art, that it becomes also a work of art. It's how the artist wants to share with the viewer, the trust that the viewer has in that artist. And that's something else that makes it really powerful.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like the viewer.
You know, I think we have to take the viewer, everybody here in this room, into consideration. I mean, I'm not going to paint for you, but on the other hand, I want you to be involved in the work. So how can I do that, you know? How can I get you to keep from just walking by and not even looking at it? So maybe I'll set up some sort of a narrative, some sort of implied narrative that I don't even know the answer to. I've started this thing going, and then your answer to it is as good as mine, probably better, because your life experiences are different than mine. So I think you don't want to paint for a magazine, paint for a gallery, paint for a viewer, you want to paint for yourself. But on the other hand, art is about also communication. Eventually someone's going to look at that, or at least you hope someone's going to look at it. So I think it's important to involve the viewer as a participant in the work. Yeah. Which you're giving up a lot there, you know, because really it's your work. I mean, that's your thing. And to involve someone to mentally move objects around, to add a pink here, to put a blue here. Oh, I wish you would have done that. You know, that's a scary kind of thing in a way, but I think you have to do it though. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's getting ready to go home for dinner and all that stuff.
You too.
I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the work. I really enjoyed looking at work. And this office needs a chance to do that, to you know, kind of look over your shoulder and take a peek in your studio. And so thank you very much for doing great work.